Hey guys, it's Saga from TechWorks. This is the first time that we see Apple launching 3 major iPhone models. It seemed like it would be an easy decision to just go with the iPhone 10 and skip the iPhone 8 Plus if you want to get an iPhone with a bigger display. But it turns out there are more similarities between these phones than there are differences. In this video, we take a look at all the differences and similarities between the iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 10, and then try to answer whether you should skip the iPhone 8 Plus or not. Make sure you stick till the end, as the answer is not as easy as you might think. This is going to be a long video, so let's just get right to the first point in this comparison. But before we do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the amazing videos coming up on this channel. Let us start with the obvious point: price. You all know this by now, that the iPhone 10 starts at $1,000 for 64GB variant in the US, and in India, it starts at 89,000 rupees, which comes to about $1,375. This seems like an absurd amount of price for a smartphone, no matter how special it is. iPhone 8 Plus in India starts at 73,000 rupees, which is about $1,100. It is still not cheap, but it is at least lower than the price of the iPhone 10. So if price is your main concern, then iPhone 8 Plus is the one to get, since it is also available at discounted rates with most of the retailers. At this price, you get very well built phones with glass at the front and back, and a metal rim holding these two pieces of glass together. Now since both of them have glass at the front and back, there are more chances of them breaking if they fall down, and the cost of repairs on these new iPhones is very high. So using a case with both these phones is highly recommended. You can check out the cases from today's sponsor, Minimal Case. They offer minimal cases for all your favorite smartphones, and just like their brand name, their cases are truly minimal. There is no branding at all, and they barely add any bulk to your beautiful looking smartphone. iPhone 8 Plus has a design which looks very much like the iPhone 7 Plus. The aluminium unibody back is replaced with a glass back, and this new gold color looks really good in my opinion. A similar design carried forward for another year, and the bigger bezels at the top and bottom of the 5.5-inch Full HD screen makes the 8 Plus look a bit dated and not like a flagship smartphone which is launched towards the later part of 2017. iPhone 10 on the other hand has a completely new design. Like on the 8 Plus, it is all glass on the front and back, but the front of the iPhone 10 is now all display. Also, the rim around this phone is made of shiny stainless steel, while on the 8 Plus, it is made of aluminium. Since the 8 Plus is bigger in size than the iPhone 10, at just above 200 grams, it is also the heavier one of the two. With the iPhone 10, Apple went from having some of the biggest bezels on their smartphone to now having one of the highest screen-to-body ratio in the smartphone industry. This 5.8-inch AMOLED display is just amazing to look at. It is the first time that Apple has used an AMOLED display on their iPhones. 8 Plus still packs the LCD display like all of the previous generation iPhones. OLED panel means you get much vibrant colors and deeper blacks on the iPhone 10. It has a bigger display than the 8 Plus in a form factor which is much smaller and manageable with one hand. The display on the iPhone 10 has a 19.5:9 aspect ratio, as opposed to the 16:9 aspect ratio of the display on the iPhone 8 Plus. Because of this new aspect ratio, the display on the iPhone 10 is taller than it is wider. So even though technically it is bigger than that of the iPhone 8 Plus, it doesn't display as much information as the 8 Plus does in the landscape mode. So if you like to view more information at a time, and if you prefer using your phone in landscape orientation a lot, you should go with the iPhone 8 Plus. Many of the apps are not yet optimized for this new display of the iPhone 10, and you just get black bars at the top and bottom of the display. App developers might take some time to update and optimize their apps for the new iPhone 10, and I hope they do that soon, so most of the apps can take advantage of this beautiful 5.8-inch display. There is no such issue on the iPhone 8 Plus. All of the apps accommodate its complete display and work without any issue. You also can't miss that notch on the forehead of the iPhone 10. It is here to stay whether you like it or not. I don't think anyone actually likes the notch, but you learn to live with it and start looking past it once you have lived with it for a few days. The only time this notch really feels like a distraction is while watching videos in landscape mode. you don't get this notch on the iPhone 8 Plus, but it already has these huge bezels at the top and bottom, so if Apple wanted to put some tech above the display, they had a lot of space there. If you are someone who just hates the notch and you think you can't get used to it, then you are better off getting the iPhone 8 Plus. The notch on the iPhone 10 is not just for aesthetic purpose, but it packs a lot of tech behind it. Speaker, microphone, proximity sensor, ambient light sensor, front-facing camera, infrared camera, flood illuminator, and a dot projector. All of these packed in such a small space. Most of these sensors are necessary for the Face ID feature to work. And this is the next point in our comparison. Since we have a full display at the front of the iPhone 10, there is no space left to put a fingerprint sensor. iPhone 8 Plus still has a home button and a fingerprint sensor below the display where it has always been. Touch ID on the iPhones has always been secure, accurate, fast, and extremely convenient, and that is how it is on the 8 Plus. You can unlock the phone even when it is placed flat on a surface, and that is one of the reasons that I love fingerprint sensor placement at the front of a phone. There is no fingerprint sensor on the iPhone 10, and it relies on Face ID to keep your phone secure and locked. While Face ID is more secure than Touch ID, and it has been working very well for me even in completely dark situations, it is not nearly as fast or convenient as Touch ID is. I mean, it is really fast to unlock your phone, but the extra step of swiping up to get to the home screen makes it seem that it is not as fast as it actually is. I understand why Apple added this extra step of swiping up. Back when Apple introduced the second generation Touch ID sensor, it was so fast that you barely saw the lock screen, which was a problem if you just wanted to glance at the notifications. So in the next iPhones, we got the raise to wake feature if you just wanted to glance at your notifications. So that extra swipe is there in case you just want to glance at the time or just check in on the notifications. But I think we should have an option to disable this feature so we can get inside the phone a bit faster. You have to look at the phone or pick it up from the table in order to unlock it. And so I feel Face ID is a bit inconvenient and less user friendly than Touch ID. Now because you don't have home button on the iPhone 10, you need to learn a few new gestures to make your way through this new interface. Swiping up gets you to the home screen. You have to swipe up and hold a few moments to bring the recent open apps, or you can also just swipe back and forth on this bottom bar to switch between recent apps. Swiping down from the top brings the notifications panel, and to get to the control center, you now have to swipe down from the top right of the screen. You actually get used to these gestures in a day or two. But if you don't want to give it a try, and like the traditional way of navigating through the iPhone, then go with the iPhone 8 Plus. The rear camera module on both these phones have different orientation. Dual cameras on the iPhone 8 Plus look similar to those on the iPhone 7 Plus, but the ones on the iPhone 10 are now oriented vertically. Both these phones have dual 12 megapixel cameras. Primary camera on both have f1.8 aperture and are optically stabilized. Secondary, or the telephoto lens on the iPhone 8 Plus has f2.8 aperture, 57mm lens, and it is not stabilized. While on the iPhone 10, it has a slightly wider f2.4 aperture, 52mm lens, and gets optical image stabilization. What this means is that you get better images from the telephoto lens of the iPhone 10 in low lighting conditions and slightly better portrait images. I don't take a lot of images with the telephoto lens of any camera, but since this lens has optical image stabilization on the iPhone 10, I ended up switching to this lens while shooting videos more often than I usually do. Rest of the camera specifications are similar on both these phones. You can take impressive 4K videos at 60 frames per second and 1080p slow motion videos at up to 240 frames per second with both these phones. These are my go-to smartphones whenever I want to shoot some videos with my phone. The front-facing camera of the iPhone 10 can also take portrait images, but you cannot do that with the front-facing camera of the iPhone 8 Plus. So until now, we saw the differences between the iPhone 10 and the 8 Plus. Now let's take a look at some of the things which are common between both these phones. Both of them pack in latest Apple A11 Bionic chip, which is one of the fastest processor on any smartphone right now. 3GB of RAM, similar GPU, and same amount of storage options. So you won't see any difference in the performance between these phones. Operating system is also similar on both the phones, with just the exception of using gestures to navigate through the iPhone 10. You pick either one of these and you also get similar IP67 water and dust resistance. Both these phones also support Qi wireless charging and fast charging out of the box, but neither one ships with a wireless or a fast charger bundled in the box. Both these phones have stereo speakers, but the ones on the iPhone 10 are a bit louder and sound a bit deeper than the ones on the iPhone 8 Plus. You also have a similar front-facing camera on both of them. Interestingly, the battery capacity on the iPhone X is more than that of the iPhone 8 Plus. 10 has a 2716 mAh battery, while the 8 Plus has a 2691 mAh battery. And despite of having a bigger battery and an AMOLED display, battery on the iPhone X doesn't last as long as the one on the iPhone 8 Plus does. After looking at all of these similarities and differences, I think you now have a better idea of which one is right for you. If you really look at it, there are more similarities between these two phones than there are differences. Other than the display size, smaller form factor, lack of Touch ID and optical stabilization on the secondary lens, rest of the things are similar on both these phones. So if you want the absolute best that Apple offers and you don't mind spending the extra money, iPhone X is the one to get. But if you don't like the notch, want a battery which lasts longer, you feel that Touch ID is more convenient, and if you don't want to spend as much but still want all the latest internals that Apple has to offer, then you should look at the iPhone 8 Plus. I personally like the iPhone X, but even for some of those extra features, I couldn't justify the price of the iPhone X. Right now I have both these phones and I have got some more videos to make. But after I am done with those videos, I might hold on to the iPhone 8 Plus and sell the iPhone X. If you don't care about the bezels, need a better battery life, and don't want to spend close to $1,000 on a phone, you can very well pick up the iPhone 8 Plus. But don't forget to let me know in the comment section which one did you choose. No matter which one you choose, I would appreciate if you purchase them from the links in the description section. It helps the channel out at no extra cost to you. And when you get your iPhone, don't forget to check out our sponsor's website to find great ways to protect your phone without adding any bulk to it. These cases are available in 6 colors, so you can choose the one that you think looks best for your phone. Minimal Case offers cases for a lot of other smartphones as well, so make sure you check them out from the link in the description section. They ship worldwide and you can use the code TW20 to get a 20% discount while placing your order. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for a lot more amazing videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.